Hey there, focused learner, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we are unpacking one of the most mind-bending, dense, but honestly absolutely fascinating philosophical texts of the 20th century. We're talking about Jean Baudrillard's Simulacra and Simulation. Okay, let's just dive right into this, because I promise you, by the end of our time together, the way you look at your smartphone, your social media feed, and even the world outside your window, it's going to fundamentally change. So ask yourself, what if the reality you experience every day isn't real at all? Now, I know that sounds exactly like the premise of The Matrix, and well, it basically is. The Wachowskis actually made Keanu Reeves read this exact book before filming. But look, Baudrillard wasn't talking about evil robots harvesting our body heat. He was talking about something far more subtle: the media, the images, the symbols, and the marketing that constantly surround us. He argued that we've essentially replaced all reality and meaning with symbols and signs. We've done this to the point where the everyday human experience is literally just a simulation of reality. Here is our roadmap for today. First, we'll look at the concept of the map and territory. Second, representation versus simulation. Third, Disneyland and the hyperreal. Fourth, avatars and virtual worlds. And finally, we'll wrap up with identifying hyperreal marketing. All right, let's kick things off with part one, the map and territory. To really peel back the layers of this theory, Baudrillard opens up with this incredibly dramatic quote attributed to Ecclesiastes. It says, "The simulacrum is never what hides the truth. It is truth that hides the fact that there is none. The simulacrum is true." Now, a simulacrum is basically just an image or a representation of someone or something. But Baudrillard is hinting at a pretty terrifying twist here. He's saying the image isn't hiding some secret truth underneath it. No, the image is hiding the fact that there is zero truth left underneath it at all. To explain how this works, he uses this famous fable by the writer Jorge Luis Borges. I want you to imagine a giant, powerful empire where the cartographers are so incredibly obsessed with accuracy that they draw a map with a 1-to-1 scale. This map covers the entire physical territory of the empire perfectly. But as decades pass, the empire declines. It falls into ruin. Centuries later, the actual physical dirt and rock, the territory itself, disappears entirely, just turning to dust. All that's left behind, rotting out there in the desert, is that massive, frayed map. Now, historically, this is how we thought about reality, right? That the territory is the real stuff, and the map is just an image. But Baudrillard says that today, this whole fable has been completely inverted. And that brings us to this mind-blowing concept of the hyperreal. In our modern digital age, it's actually the map that comes first. The simulation precedes the territory. We live in what Baudrillard calls the hyperreal, which he defines as the generation by models of a real without origin or reality. The real world has vanished, and we are quite literally living inside the map. We're living in the desert of the real itself. We don't experience raw reality anymore, you guys. We experience models, media, and images that have totally and completely replaced the original reality. Which brings us to part two, representation versus simulation. So how exactly did we lose the real world? It basically comes down to this core difference. Representation implies a presence. It means an original reality actually exists somewhere. For example, if I call in sick so I can stay home and binge a TV show, I am dissimulating. I'm masking the reality that I am, in fact, perfectly healthy. The difference between healthy and sick is still crystal clear. Simulation, on the other hand, implies an absence. Baudrillard says that if you truly, deeply simulate an illness, you actually start to produce some of the physical symptoms in yourself. So are you sick or are you not? The boundary between true and false, between real and imaginary, completely collapses. Simulation doesn't hide the truth. It completely destroys the very difference between what is true and what is fake. Let's look at how this builds over time, phase by phase. Think of an apple. Phase 1 reflects reality. It's a raw, crunchy apple plucked straight from a tree. Phase 2 masks reality. Think of a heavily photoshopped, impossibly shiny apple on a billboard ad. Phase 3 masks the absence of reality. That's the hollow, plastic prop apple sitting in a fake fruit bowl at a furniture store. It pretends there is a reality behind it when there totally isn't. And finally, the fourth phase, the pure simulacrum. This is the digital emoji of an apple on your smartphone screen. It has literally zero relationship to a physical piece of fruit whatsoever. It's just a copy of a copy circulating out there indefinitely. Okay, moving on to part 3, Disneyland and the hyperreal. When examining everyday life, Baudrillard drops this absolute bombshell of a conclusion. He says Disneyland exists in order to hide that it is the real country. Yes, you heard that right. Mickey Mouse is basically a philosophical decoy. We all think of it as this playful, imaginary place with its pirates, castles, and enchanted villages, but Baudrillard argues it is actually a highly functioning deterrence machine. Think about it. We believe Disneyland is a childish, imaginary, completely fake world. And because we believe that, we step outside the gates, drive into the Los Angeles parking lot, and tell ourselves that Los Angeles is the adult, authentic, real world. But Baudrillard says that is a trap. Los Angeles is just an immense network of unreal circulation and simulated desires. Disneyland acts childish simply to trick us into believing that the adults outside are real. It exists to conceal the fact that all of America is now a hyper-real simulation. It essentially saves our reality principle by giving us a designated fake place so we don't realize the whole thing is fake. Let's jump to part 4, Avatars and Virtual Worlds. Baudrillard wrote this text way back in the early 1980s, but it so perfectly predicts our digital age, it's almost scary. Today, we willingly trade our physical bodies for digital avatars. We eagerly trade our natural faces for smoothed-out social media filters. We trade the messy physical world for highly controlled virtual gaming environments. Baudrillard warned that the real is no longer produced from nature. It's produced from miniaturized cells, matrices, and memory banks. Our digital avatars are exact simulations, and the crazy part is they are more perfect, more controllable, and more flawless than our actual physical bodies. We actually end up preferring the hyperreal counterpart to our own physical reality. But this perfection leads to a really profound loss. As Baudrillard warns, the hologram, perfect image, and end of the imaginary. When we go out of our way to create these perfect 3D digital avatars or these flawlessly rendered VR environments, we actually destroy the magic of the imagination. Because we've tried to recreate reality so perfectly, adding more and more dimensions, packing in more and more pixels, we leave absolutely no room for the imaginary to exist. We end up plunging ourselves into this transparent, hyperreal universe that has no secrets left, where everything is just a perfectly rendered copy of a copy on a screen. And finally, part 5, identifying hyperreal marketing. So, how do we actually navigate this in our daily lives? Well, it starts by realizing that modern advertising no longer sells products. It sells a simulation of the social. Marketing has reached what Baudrillard calls the degree zero of meaning. Think about the ads you see. They don't actually tell you about the cleaning quality of a soap or the engineering features of a car anymore. Instead, they sell you the illusion that just by consuming this image, you are actively participating in society. I want to give you a quick 3-step guide to spotting this hyperreality on your social media feeds today. Step 1. Notice the lack of depth. Ask yourself, does this ad actually sell a functional product, or is it just selling a vague, superficial feeling or a lifestyle aesthetic? Step 2. Identify the simulation of social participation. Baudrillard pointed out that ads stopped saying, "I buy," and started saying things like, "I vote," "I am concerned," "I participate." Brands are constantly selling you the idea that just buying their product makes you socially conscious. And step 3, recognize the empty form. Look at the ad as a closed loop. It's not pointing to any real-world truth. It is just validating its own existence as a cool, trendy image. Once you start seeing marketing this way, I swear, you can't unsee it. So as we wrap up, I want you to think back to that rotting map in the desert from the Borges fable. As you go about your daily life, scrolling through endless news feeds, throwing on filters, customizing avatars, and absorbing all this hyperreal advertising, are you the map or are you the territory? Have you let the simulation completely replace your reality, or can you still find the desert of the real out there? I'm going to leave you to ponder that one. Thank you so much for joining me today, Focus Learner. Stay curious and keep questioning the world around you.